Hey, welcome to this session of Meet the Candidate. And my guest is Duane Davidson, a candidate for state treasurer. Welcome, Duane.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So this is the get acquainted. Introduce yourself as the guy around town to the neighbors
Okay.
across the state. Starting with telling us, where did you grow up?
Well, I actually spent most of my adult life over in Eastern Washington, but before that all started, I got my start in Carnation, Washington. My my great grandfather actually homesteaded in Eastern King County, and actually some of my ancestors were here before in territorial days when it was a territory. And it was a homestead family involved in logging and farming, and went to a little high school that no longer exists. Told high school graduated with I think 38 other students. Small community, even though it was only, I think as a crow flies, maybe 35 miles east of Seattle. It was very, very rural, mostly, like I said, agriculture and logging. And it's pretty apparent to me that that was a way of life was kind of disappearing, and had to do something else. And that's why I went to Central Washington University and became a CPA. But I look fondly back at those days of that experience of growing up in Carnation.
Well, growing up in Carnation, you probably had lots of little opportunities for jobs. What was your first job?
I Through high school, I worked at the Grange store. So the Grange, the local Grange had a store that was open to their member. It was actually open to the public, feed and grocery store. And then my very first paying job out of school that I went to for a while when I worked at, and eventually they helped put me through community college, where I spent the first 2 years of college, was at Carnation Farms in Carnation, Washington. And so it's more of the cows. So I had a lot of experience with the Holsteins.
So that did it teach you anything that's useful as a CPA?
Well, it helped me get a job as a CPA, actually, ironically enough, because when I graduated, there was kind of an abundance of accountants at the time, and I was desperately trying to get a CPA job, and I was putting my resume all throughout the state. And a little CPA firm in Sunnyside, Washington, picked me up, and they said, "Oh, my goodness, we're so thankful we found you, a guy that knows cows and accounting, because uh, we've got some clients for you." And it was some of the large dairy operations that were in Sunnyside. So, yeah.
I was always surprised when we first started ranching that you actually can depreciate livestock, and
Hmm.
but we have a CPA who also understands livestock and accounting.
Yeah, yeah.
So, well, is there some travel or volunteer experiences that have helped shape how you approach the world?
Oh, my, that's an interesting question. I've been able to travel to Europe and to England and Scotland, and traveled around the United States quite a bit when I was a youth with my grandparents. I can tell you one very, very moving to me that really helped shape me is been very involved with my church and with Gideons and other Christian organizations all my life, and those connections helped me get connected with YWAM. Just a couple of years ago, I went to a youth mission in Tijuana, Mexico, and helped build a house for a family that was that they had lost their house. I think they lost it during a fire, and there was a group of us there. And these folks have this perfected down. These organizers of this thing that we poured the cement. We had the walls. It was totally electric. It wasn't, lavish accommodations, but it was a new home in 3 days. And I just thought that was an amazing. And I had the opportunity to hand the keys to the family, and I was sobbing and everything. I mean, that was really quite the experience. They were so thankful for what they provided, and it was such a great delight being part of that process.
Wow. That would be quite a an experience. And I've
Going to Tijuana is Tijuana is an experience. I mean, you really can see some impoverished folks, and people are really, really thankful. There was such genuine appreciation for what we were doing for them, and it was so. Um, I was a little bit amazed about the lack of permitting processes that you can get a house up in 3 days.
a very different world from a
Yes, it
regulatory
is.
standpoint. So, what prompted you to volunteer to leave the accounting field and, well, sort of lead it and run for public office?
Well, actually, there is a real direct connection there. One of my jobs after being a CPA, I went to work for the state auditor's office, and I was auditing local governments throughout Southwest Washington and around the Tri-City area, all the way to Pullman to Yakima. All different type of entities, from mosquito control districts to port districts to school districts to counties. And it really interests me in local government that really, I was always an active voter. I grew up in a family that took politics pretty seriously. Lots of discussions that I heard when I was, around the kitchen table. But nobody, well, I guess my grandfather served on the school board, but not a lot of direct involvement in politics per se. And and I went to but when I was auditing these local governments, I thought, well, this is kind of intriguing, and people can run for these positions, and I think I'm going to do this. And so I came home and I told my a wife that I wanted to run for office, and I don't know how she felt about it, but I was surprised, and I got elected, and
Well, what was your first
that
office?
the county treasurer.
Okay.
And I was the Benton County Treasurer in Prosser, Washington, Tri-Cities, but the courthouse is in Prosser, for 4 terms. And then later, my wife actually ran for a hospital commissioner herself. And so my poor kids, why they're probably so involved with politics, they grew up in a two-politician family. And then, of course, I've discussed this with you before, but I lost my wife during the campaign
Hmm.
unexpectedly. And my youngest daughter, who was only 18 at the time, took I was going to back out of the race, and she convinced me that if I stayed in, she'd be my campaign manager. And it was a real bonding time for the both of us. Of course, she didn't know what to do when I said to her, let's do it. She had to Google on the phone how to be a campaign manager because she had no idea. But she turned out to be a great asset to me, and she's actually helping on this campaign also. So it was a really, really good experience, and that that's how I got involved with the Treasury. Then I was elected president of the Washington State Association of County Treasurers, representing all 39 counties throughout the state. And I was in Olympia a lot, lobbying for legislation on behalf of counties, and that's where I got the eye of. It is a partisan position, and so people have that kind of doesn't make some sense to me, but it's been that way forever, so it's the way it is, I guess. And people in my political party recruited me to run, and based on that Olympia experience, and so I did, and was successful.
Okay. Well, this is the opportunity for that last minute wrap up, where I ask you tell people why they should vote to reelect Duane Davidson as state treasurer.
Well, I sure do appreciate you giving me that opportunity. I think that we hear it all the time. It's kind of, but experience really matters. I've been a public treasurer, been a public auditor, for a long time, and I think that that experience has given me very good and valuable lessons. My accomplishments, and I don't mean to be, they're just really, it's a list, and I'm really impressed by the hard work that my staff. I've always been one thing I've really been able to do is pick some excellent people for staff, and I have to, whenever I talk about what I've done, I always have to give acknowledgement to just a terrific staff of people that is work for me. And so the accomplishments have been many. If people just go to my website, davidson4wa.com, that's Davidson, FORWA.com, and check it out. Some of the accomplishments are there. And, because this is basically almost a hiring process, and the voters get a choice about whether they want to return me to a second term, and which I would sure appreciate if they would. And I think that they'll be able to check it out there and see that experience. We have accomplished a lot, and I think that they'll see that there.
Well, thank you for joining me today, Duane, and good luck with your campaign.
Well, thank you, and nice seeing you again.
Nice to see you too again. Bye.
90 million Christians are eligible to vote.
40 million didn't.
That's 45% of eligible Christians not voting.
We can change that.
We believe We Vote was designed to arm people of faith with information on candidates
and how they line up with biblical and constitutional principles.
It's simply WeBelieveWeVote.com.
We're on a mission to rev up the 2020 election.
Tell your friends, your neighbors, and especially your pastors to rev up.
Be an educated voter.
Arm yourself with truth based on the Word of God.
2020, rev up.
Register, educate, vote.
Rev up.
Rev up.
Rev up 2020.